Hello and welcome to the Smart Betting Club podcast. I'm your host, Peter Ling, and for these Betting Clever episodes, as usual, I'm going to be joined by my partner in crime, Josh Polloway. Josh and I were going to talk about a recap at Smart Bash, our event from London recently, the Gambling Commission, again, their useless gambling survey for Great Britain, golf betting, we'll talk about Blogger, a little bit of Twitter/X chat. And to wrap it up, we've got a trio of services we're going to talk about that we work here at SBC who you don't need soft bookmaker accounts to use, which is the goal for so many of these days. But first of all, a recap of Smart Bash, which we held on the 19th of July at Chelsea FC. Josh, you were there with me for a few days. Have you recovered from your trip to the Big Smoke and getting lost on the tube?
Yeah, I can't be doing with it. It's too big. It's too loud and noisy. It stinks. And all that north, south, east and west malarkey, I can't be doing. I ended up just getting Ubers everywhere because, yeah, it confuses me too much. I just don't like it. It's too hot and too claustrophobic. Yeah. Away from that, yeah, really good 4 or 5 days. Obviously, we went down on a Tuesday. Got to play cricket, which was good. Got a 6 on the last ball, didn't I, Pete?
You did.
Yeah, I'm normally a bit of a misanthrope. I don't normally like chatting to people and stuff. It feels very American. Yeah, it didn't feel like that at all with a betting crowd. Lots of things in common, lots of things that we all read or listen to. So always something to talk about. It was really enjoyable, especially meeting people that I've only ever spoken to on like social media or by email or whatever else. That was really good fun. How about yourself? You have a good time?
I did. And, I think the tone of the event was set early on. We had the first seminar was with Daniel Hussey, who was hosting it and moderating it. And he had Chris Poole, who's the trader, head of trading at BetVictor, Johnny Deneen and Dean Valentine, a couple of pro punters. And Daniel Hussey set the tone. He said, looking into the crowd, there are a lot of ex-BetVictor customers here. Chris Poole said, I'd like to think everyone here has been closed. And that, got a chuckle from the room. And it was that kind of nature of the event. It was honest, realistic. We're not here just to moan about Bet365 or Sky Bet closing us down for each way Arbin or whatever we've been doing. There was a realistic nature to the event, and it had a wide range of people, all from the idea of, on the outskirts, if you like, of the traditional betting and bookmaking world, but people who are, we had big and small punters, we had bookies, we had traders, software tech guys, modelers, we've had some arbors, we had syndicate owners, podcasters, tipsters, brokers, the list goes on. A lot of these events, like I say, are designed for operators to take more money off the general betting public. This one is about all the industries, some small and bigger businesses that operate in the space. And it was great. I think a lot of business was done. And I think it was just realistic rather than just complaining and moaning. And
yeah,
I felt like there was really good engagement throughout the day. You were in the networking room a bit more than I was, especially early on. What was the atmosphere there? Because I was welcoming people and all I could hear was this cacophony of noise coming through from the meeting room before the first seminar began.
Like I said, it was like people coming up to you or you going up to other people that you know what they look like, really, and saying hello and introducing yourself. There's a few people who I think half recognised me from last year and they were just looking down at my name badge to try and catch my name so they didn't offend me. That was quite funny. But yeah, that's what it was like. Like I said, we've all got so much in common and it wasn't a moan, which I think I'm definitely guilty of, especially on like social media. Sometimes we make everything look negative. It wasn't like that at all. It was like just discussing things, what other people are doing and talking about gossip in the betting world. And have you tried this? Have you tried that? Have you looked at this yet? And just meeting up with people that I normally only ever speak to on the phone or in Telegram groups, whatever. It's just lovely. Just like a really good day. And what part do you enjoy most, Pete? Was there like anything that stood out to you? Because we've not really spoken about it since, have we?
I think it was the same. Joe, I really liked, we gave out a bunch of awards at the lunch break. So I liked, for example, Alexa Lee Keys from the Bar Stewards Inquiry was there with the producer, Daryl Carter, Matt Bisogno, the guys from Fitstairs with the Racing Post there. So just giving awards, especially to those that are running like smaller fledgling businesses, or Bar Stewards is a independent podcast that's built an audience through the fact they're actually good rather than being bankrolled by a large bookmaker. So that was really good. I felt like just that ability, and like Daryl was so pleased, and I know Lee was really pleased, and it was really good chats with them all, actually. I think the other thing is the engagement throughout the day. Like, it started really well from the fact that a lot of people come down on their own and maybe didn't know anyone else, or maybe exchanged a few messages, but it began really well with people engaging because, like I say, there was so much going on early on. It's so noisy. And then at the end of the day, I'd been to an event at Chelsea before. I left at 1:30 because my mate said, I'm at the pub around the corner, do you fancy a pint? And I never went back. I don't think I missed anything. But the last event that we held, it got cut short by 5 or 10 minutes by some burly looking security guards at Chelsea. But it was packed. The room was packed. And then after that, the pub with the like drinks was packed as well. The queue to get in was, I put my head round and say, what's going on? Are we going to get in? And there's like a 10, 15 minute queue in the sunshine.
Yeah.
Because so many people are trying to get to the bar. So it was really good. And I think as well, when people had a pint, they're more willing to come up to me and have a chat. So that was really good, actually. I was chatting to a whole bunch of people in the bar afterwards for a long time. So yeah, all told, really good. And we've got feedback forms out. We're trying to learn more about what people liked, what they didn't. If we do more in the future, we have better understanding, maybe do a few workshops, a bit more specialism. But overall, I think, it was a very positive day.
Yeah, the people I've spoken to so far have said that. So like, even though we're all quite similar, we all like work under a rock in the dark. The few that I have spoken to said they would have liked more time in between stuff to have a chat and stuff. So that shows it was a success in that regard. Yeah, maybe a bit cramped, but that's because we wanted to fit as much as we could in. So that's not really a negative, is it?
Well, yeah. I think we didn't realise the enthusiasm as well for some of the panellists overran because of that, and the questions from the audience. So yeah, I'd rather have too much than too little and have people getting as much as they can from it and squeezing as much as we can. But yeah, obviously, we're not experienced doing events. We're experienced at betting. We're learning as we go on some of these things. So we had the guys from Matchbook helping us, and they had a really good team there, people with a lot more experience and able to help put it together. So credit to them. They were really good, as were the guys from Bookie Bashing who helped put it together. We're definitely reflecting on that and looking back. I do want to get onto some disappointments, Josh. And that isn't about what we did at Smart Bash or anything to do with that. It's about who wasn't there. Who do you think I'm going to pick out here?
Has he got a similar hairstyle to you?
What, Michael Duga?
No, not Michael Duga. I was thinking of Mr. Andrew Rhodes of the Gambling Commission.
Yes.
I thought after the pod that you did with him in, March, April time?
Yeah.
I didn't think he would come, but I thought that they might just speak to people who bet all the time, because they've obviously got groups that they work very closely with, which is very important, different panels and stuff. But the one group that doesn't seem to be represented is the everyday bettor. I don't think it even needs to be sharp bettors, because I don't think we need much representation, but the everyday bettor does. People like Brian Chappell who were there don't seem to be getting a look in with the Gambling Commission. And I think if they'd been there, they would have been able to listen to what was talked about, and they would have got something from it. They might not have agreed with everything, but they would have got something from it. So that would be the big one for me. Was there any others? I know you were angling at the Gambling Commission there. Is there anyone else that you thought it would have been good if they were there, but they weren't?
Yeah, I'll talk about the Gambling Commission in a minute, I think. But first of all, yeah, there's a couple other groups ahead of them too. Bet Game Council, always talking a good game about betting and raising standards. They weren't there. We think they're exactly where they should be, representing bettors' interests. We don't. They represent a few big bookmakers. And I know there's a new leader there, new CEO, or is it chairwoman, Grania. Hopefully she does a better job than Michael Duga, which can't be hard because I think he's a disgrace. He has been a disgrace. And I think a lot of the problems do stem back to organisations like his and how they've, led the debate over the recent years. So they're one that I wouldn't have. I would say that was a shame IBAS. I thought I've had Richard Taylor on the pod, a nice enough guy. But considering they deal with disputes between punters and bookmakers, there are a lot of punters there that probably have a lot of experience or things, expertise to share that you'd like to hear of. I invited him, didn't wish to come. There's like open invites in the same, like the Gambling Commission, like you say, they came on the podcast. I thought, I wonder if this is the start of trying to be engaging with more people on this side of the fence. It doesn't seem to have transpired. Invite went out. Oh, tell us more information. We need to see the schedule for the day. So obviously things like this, you only finalize the actual schedule for the day closer to the event because you're dotting a lot of T's and crossing a lot of whatever it is, T's and I's, and just trying to work out, juggling a lot of things in the air, trying to work out when and where things go on. Finally sent that and no, we're not coming, which is a shame because they seem to they'll go to the opening of an envelope if there's a free lunch, it seems, and if it's bookmaker run. But they posted a blog, and this is the other thing, Josh, they posted a blog, I think it was that day or the day after, talking about the increase on their awareness and how they're going to impact and do work on bookmakers who delay withdrawals or play withdrawal, delaying or refusal. I mean, it's just a lot of hot air from the Gambling Commission. We need to see action, and we have yet to see that. But what an opportunity to stand up at that event and tell people this. There'll be a lot of people who disagree with a lot of things they do, but no one's going to disagree with that. I don't think everyone's going to be like, finally, it shows you're listening. Just feels like a missed opportunity. What do you think, Josh?
Yeah, I'm going to try and play devil's advocate a little bit because I'm probably going to give him a bit of a kick in the next thing that we talk about. But I think it's a bit like social media versus real life, isn't it? I think if you just looked at social media without any kind of filter and without knowing what it is. You'd think that if someone from the Gambling Commission turned up at an event like that, they'd probably get attacked or something or chased out the building. It's not like that. And there's obviously bookmakers there and stuff, and people like, say Chris Paul, he's willing to front up and say, yes, we limit customers if they win too much money. I don't think anyone went up to Chris and started having a go at him, did they?
No.
Everyone there has a brain cell. They know how the game works at the moment. We might not agree with everything they do, and we would have issues with bookmakers and other operators, but at the end of the day, it was a constructive day, and the type of event it was never going to be like that. But yeah, I'm giving up on them, to be honest. I think I've never had any faith in the BGC. I think of them as that they're doing their job representing the big operators, but the likes of the Gambling Commission and definitely people like IBAS and Ecogra, they should be going to events like that. They should be the first names who are signing up. And if they want to be seen as biased and they're not representing consumers in the way they're meant to, then keep on acting the way they are. But yeah, I wasn't surprised, got to say. I'm not really disappointed either.
Can I read out a quote from Brian Chappell? Because Brian, who runs Justice at Punters, was one of our panelists. And he said, there should be a panel of people who bet regularly who report to the Gambling Commission. Now, that was actually put to me by someone else I chatted to post the event, someone very influential, won't name them. I think this is an all advantage to people at the Gambling Commission. And obviously you didn't want to come. Maybe we understand why. You missed an opportunity and it would have been respectful, like you say. You listen to this podcast, I believe. So why not start a group, a panel of people, whether this is, in private or semi-public or however you wish to build it, of people that have active interest and knowledge about the betting game. Not just operators, not just people with vested interest from that side of the fence, but actually people who bet. It could be anybody. It could be ourselves. It could be Matchbook. It could be people like Jeff Banks. It could be, there's other bookmakers as well, like William Woodhams has been very well spoken on it, Ben Keefe, AK. You could have people like Dan Waugh, Chris Fawcett, punters like Trent Hale or Nick Goff, like so many people, Luke Payton, who probably would be a part of that panel and could have a lot to offer. And I feel like that's something that they should consider, because there needs to be, at the moment, there's a feeling of they don't listen, they don't care, they turn off their comments, they don't engage, they're actually antagonistic towards a lot of us in this sector. So I think that that's definitely something I would like them to consider and get on the front foot and start engaging with people rather than sniping from every emails and kind of, being a fairly antagonistic.
The list of people you gave there, the likes of like Nick, say, Luke, they're all sharp punters. They'll probably make way more money than the average punter. But if you listen to them, which I have in previous interviews, or if they've done threads on Twitter or whatever else, you don't see them calling for unrestricted access to Sky Bet accounts with gazillion places, do you?
No.
They know the game. They understand how it works. They know that they're not going to be getting on $1,000 each way on a 16-1 at 6 o'clock the night before. That's not who we're talking about. There are some people out there like that, and they're just living in cloud cuckoo land. Mm-hmm. There's plenty of people who give up their time. I'd happily go up to Birmingham and represent the SBC if they wanted us to be on a panel or anything. And yeah, we're not going to be talking about things like that. We're going to be talking about basic stuff like not screwing people over when they're trying to withdraw their winnings, or the various other things that we've brought to the public attention over the last 2 or 3 years especially. Yeah, there's panels for lived experience. There's panels for the industry that are led by various people, as there should be. But the biggest demographic in this market is the recreational customer, and I'm not asking for them to be having a powerful voice, but just to have the same voice as everybody else, I guess. That would be common sense, as Brian says.
Yeah, it would be. I was listening to the Bar Stewards Inquiry recently. I think it was Sunday or 10 days ago. Or it was the episode before last, I believe, or it was a really good one. It's a special about Gambling Commission. I'm going to let you get in your soapbox and talk about it, because it's about the Great British Gambling Survey, which links in with the Gambling Commission. That was a really good podcast. It had Lee Keys, who's very, very good on these topics. Jeff Banks, who actually probably is causing himself a big problem because he's criticising the people who license his business. And he acknowledges that, and then he doesn't.
He doesn't care.
He doesn't. And fair play to the bloke, he's saying it as it is. And Dan Waugh, who we've had on the pod, who's a partner, Regulus Partners, I believe, and it's just a very informed man on all these topics. So that's really good about the topic. But one of the things that was this Great Britain Gambling Survey. Now, Josh, I've been away for a little bit. I've had COVID. I've not paid as much attention, but I know you have. So there's your soapbox, Josh. Go and tell us about why it's a nonsense.
I'm not going to try and break it all down too much, because people will just turn off the podcast. But basically, up until last week, or was it the week before, we used to collect gambling, problem gambling and general gambling data from a health survey. So that was run by the NHS Health Survey. And that would involve people going out to people's houses and collecting representative samples. So they'd go out, and the uptake of people responding was 60 to 70%. So you ended up with very representative data. And that data showed problem gambling rates, which is PGSI 8 or higher. That's a problem gambling severity index of between 0.3 up to 0.5%. That's been the case for a very, very long time. So the Gambling Commission, up until this new project of theirs, have long been calling it a gold standard of statistical measurement. Some of the people who were involved in the formation of this new Great Britain Gambling Survey called it the same, said it was an excellent methodology. There were some problems with it, so you could only collect so much data. Obviously, it didn't go into too much detail about gambling on its own because it had various other things about diet and smoking and drinking, that kind of thing. But what they've done is they've decided that that's not good enough anymore, so they need to replace it with something more comprehensive. So they've come up with the Gambling Survey for Great Britain. So what this, in its first iteration, has provided is data that suggests that problem gambling is a heck of a lot higher than it was presumed to be before, even though they're not meant to compare, because it's a different methodology. But there's basically some massive flaws with the methodology of how they've done things. So first off, they've called it a gambling survey, which attracts people who have an interest in gambling, which is a filter that, as you know, would cause an issue. So, for example, with the health survey, if you went round to my mum's house and said, do you want to answer a health survey? She would answer it, and she would answer questions about gambling while she was doing it. If you knocked on my mum's door and asked her if she wanted to do a gambling survey, she'd say, I've got nothing to do with gambling, so I'm not going to answer. Now, the result there has been that only 20% or just under 20% of respondents actually agreed. So you ended up with a massive bias. This was actually pointed out before the survey was designed by some of the people who were involved in it. It's been pointed out during the process. It's been included in lots of the caveats that the Gambling Commission and some of the other academics, probably most notably Patrick Sturgis, have put on the data. The issue is that the Gambling Commission have put those caveats alongside any of this new stuff and said this is a new baseline. So it's more designed to be used as something to track in 2025 and then 2026 and 2027. So this is meant to be used as the new ground zero, if you like. Despite all that,
oh dear,
the usual suspects, The Guardian, for example, and some of the most vocal charities, academics, and other people have been using this to push their political agendas very, very irresponsibly, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Despite some of the data that's in those very survey results actually undermining lots of the things that they've actually been saying for years on some topics which I find quite difficult to stomach that they've used as political attacking points. If I'm honest, I won't get into that. But yeah, what it all comes down to, people accuse the Gambling Commission of being biased, incompetent, or both. I used to think incompetent. I like to try and think of people that I may disagree with in the best light and try and deal with arguments rather than accusing people of things like bias. But there's been 6 or 7 different cases now where they've acted in one way when it seems to tally up with the anti-gambling agenda, and then another way when data seems to point in the opposite direction. And that leads me to think that they are biased and they seem to have an agenda. Whenever they're accused of it, they get very tetchy, but Andrew Rhodes and some of his colleagues have said things in public and not followed up on them. The survey from 2021, where 12,000 of us responded, is one. There's just so many. I can't document it all here because I've been talking for too long already, but I've got no faith in that body now as it is. And like you said, Jeff and Dan and Lee on their podcast said quite a lot of what I feel about it. Might not agree with everything they say, but the general gist I do. I think this organisation's kaput. I don't think it can be trusted to regulate the industry properly. And it's a real shame because there are people who do need help out there. And with these slot in charge and some of the bad actors in the space, they're probably not going to get it. Sorry for overstretching, but I've been down the rabbit hole on this thing.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's informative. You know your topic really well. I would agree. Definitely biased, very incompetent. And we see antagonistic towards all elements of this side of the debate. Even people like the Racing Post, who probably are on both sides, or not specifically winning punters, but just representing just the general racing punters and general betting interests. And we just see that constantly, don't we? We see that double standards approach and lack of engagement. So who knows if things will change? They need to. But that's a really good summary there, Josh. Thanks for that. Like I say, one of the things on that podcast, the Bar Stewards one, which we recommended, is Jeff mentions the idea of a betting bank. And it feels like it's something that someone at the Gambling Commission would never hear of. And we all know what a betting bank is. It's just a sum of money you keep to one side for your betting. It might be a bank, it might be a tank. I know bookies call it a tank. I think Simon Knott is one of the terms he uses, which I quite like. And it's a set of money which you put aside for your betting, and it helps cover the variance that you suffer, which segues us nicely on to talk about golf betting. Actually talk about some actual betting now, which is what we want and what we're here for. And golf betting, because it's been we're in August now, but it's been a year so far of, I think the first 5 months maybe were really difficult. And since then, it's been the absolute opposite. I think early on, we had events dominated by the likes of Scheffler. I think he won 6, did he? And then, McIlroy won. Did he win a few? And just people at the short end. Schauffele's won a bunch. Although I think we had him for a couple of services. We've talked before about some of the golf betting strategies. We did the special podcast at the start of 2024 on that. And it's been interesting to see how it's gone. We had 3 men in a 5-man playoff recently, and we actually won one of them. One of those guys won. And the way it was prior to June would have been, if we had 4 men in a playoff, the guy that would win would be the one person we were on. It just goes to show you need a bank to make it work, don't you? Because we've gone from being, for the weekly golf value, being £246 down at the start of June to now up over £1,200 from a £1,000 bank, which I think explains quite nicely the variance and the patience you need.
Yeah, I probably pay attention to probably 10 or 12 golf tipsters, like all the ones that are involved with us, obviously, and then the likes of your Ben Colis, your Niall Leons, should I say, from Oddschecker, Steve Palmer and co. It felt to me like the first 3 or 4 months of the year was pretty barren across the board because, like you say, there was that tranche of like short price winners. And then the other side of that was like 400 to 1, 500 to 1 winners.
Yeah.
And the majority of good tipsters have noticed that the sweet spot lies in between those two groups in general. So, like you say, weekly golf value was quite a bit down, and it's not had like 2 or 3 spectacular wins in a row. It's just been steady. A lot more places have been coming in. And then we have talked about before how the wins really do decide how profitable the service is in a year, and it's come through. Just the other side of variance, that's all it is. It's just variance. Our brains are pre-programmed, aren't they, to expect it to go heads, tails, heads, tails, heads, tails, but the world doesn't work like that. And the amount of variance within any kind of record gets shocked all the time, but you wouldn't believe like how bad it can be sometimes and how good it can be. Got to say, on either side, you can hit ridiculous runs of luck as well. So it's nice to see all these services coming out the other side, though, because that can't be nice being 6 months into the year and treading water or being down. They're all getting what they deserve now, coming out the other side.
That's right. Also, the stats that jump out at me for the weekly golf value service are the fact that this year, it's been going since 2019, it's had the most number of placed selections, 11.8%, but it's only had 1.71% of outright wins, and that's lower than like 1.98 being the historical record. So it just goes to show we've had more coming second or third or finishing in the top place of an event, and obviously in competition to actually win it than any other year. So it just goes to show sometimes the variance that you can have. And interestingly, the year we had the lowest number of place selections was 2022, when we actually had the highest number of winning selections. And that was the highest ROI. Sometimes over, especially with golf, because you've only got 3 tournaments maximum a week, you can suffer that. We've seen that Golf Betting Club has suffered some poor variance. And then they have a winner, guy shoots an eagle at the Barracuda to win, Nick Dunlap. And the other one, along with Golf Betting Club, is PJ Profit. Now, they had a losing 2023. The first year since they began in 2018, they actually lost money. They were down 27% ROI, 188 points. So cycle forward to this year, and so far they're up 335 points. All of that 188 point last year and a lot more made back. And they're at 25% ROI long term. So now looking at it, going 1 losing year out of 7. I think he even started in 2018 and said, look forward to 7 years and you'll have 1 losing year. How does that sound? You'd take it. But it just goes to show the nature of the patience required when betting on golf, which is something that maybe people at places like the Gambling Commission don't really respect, that people need to have the ability to deposit and to bet and to do so unencumbered in terms of in a sensible way. But, some of these limits just prevent people from betting sensibly because, they can't follow a strategy, or they can't do so in an informed way and a patient way, which does often reward results. So anything else to add to golf there, Josh?
Yeah, I was just looking, I've got the table in front of me for PJ Profit. I was just thinking as I was looking at it, if you think variance is bad when you're back in Live, DP World Tour and PGA, imagine how bad the variance can be in terms of time when you're just back in PGA. You haven't got that volume to even it out of you. You have to wait another week before you can bet on another tournament. Yeah, it's even more extreme when you're just back in on one tour. I was thinking about that as I was looking at that table. Nearly 1,500 points profit in just over 7 years. Very good service. And anyone who was questioning it last year, like, this just shows it's fine to question it, but take a long-term view, because how many times have we seen, Pete, someone get in touch saying this service is rubbish, cancel, and then the next 2 weeks they have running winners? It's just sod's law. I always hope that the people don't see that the service has had those couple of wins, because it's not good for your head.
No, it's a good point. In terms of PGA Tour, you're not getting that many events. And if you have someone like Scotty Scheffler goes on that kind of ridiculous run he's had. But bear in mind, Scotty Scheffler he just won the Olympics. What was he, 4-1? So the next event is going to be shorter, which means that everyone else is going to be bigger. And Scheffler's not a robot. He's not going to win every week. He's got a young baby, He's probably wants a bit of a break. He's probably going to have some events where he's just had enough and he's worn out, or maybe he just doesn't apply his skills as he would normally, or the luck doesn't fall his way. So it's not a machine.
I don't know. Pete, he's a hard man. He got pulled in for his criminal actions, didn't he? And he was all right. I think he'll be all right.
I think he'll be okay.
He's a hardened crim. If the lawyers are listening, that's a joke. I hope that's very clear.
He started crying as he won the gold medal, because the American national anthem. So yeah,
it's a big softie, really. Yeah,
it's a big softie. Yeah, I don't know whether the next guy. I don't know if he's a big softie or not, but Blogger. A few people asked us about our opinions on him, and I think we're both on the same page with this one, because I think his racing content is great. When he's done stuff on course, or when he goes visits retired horses in Ireland, or he's done some stuff with jockeys, or he taught the hotels in Liverpool for the Grand National and stuff like that. I think it's fine. And, whether you want to also see pictures of his breakfast, I don't know. But I think his racing content is fine. What I do have an issue with is some of the betting stuff he's put up, like his $5 bets on things like Man City to win 2-0 in the FA Cup final, and the reaction to Neil. Yeah, I don't know is that an inside joke?
I think I don't know.
Yeah,
someone said in between us, but I've got no idea.
No idea. No. Yeah. So those bets I don't know anybody who's betting on 5, thinking that's a value play. Any sharp punters or groups that would do, especially on the day of the game, for $5. And it's the reaction to it. I think, what was the bet where he had a complete meltdown? I think he's had a few, but France to beat Poland 2-0, and it was a 1-1 draw. It's a terrible game. Anyone who watched France throughout the Euro tournament would have understood that what was happening with that team. And yeah. I think there was a penalty for Lewandowski scored. And he was like, oh, it's a disgrace. And really losing his shit about it. And I just think it's tone deaf in the environment we're in, that kind of stuff. $5 bets on stuff, which is, very efficient markets. There's probably no edge. And then the reaction to it, when you think about, we're trying to have people listen to the fact that we're sensible, and these restrictions and limits that have been placed on us, they don't need to apply to everybody. And you can engage with people like us, and you can engage with punters. We're not all degenerates. I think it just undermines that point. So I think stick to the racing stuff, leave the $5 bets off, especially when you're putting up betting slips after the event that I've won. You're just going to invite criticism.
Yeah, I mean, like Jack, who off Twitter, like I'm friends with, quarter first 4.
Yeah,
he tracked his bets publicly, didn't he? And it seems to have dried up since then. So I don't think he liked that. There was one situation where he'd been tracked and had lost quite a bit of money, and then he just said, oh, by the way, I won 10 grand at Limerick or something on Saturday. It's like, oh, come on. I see lots of people defending him and saying, oh, it's just all a bit of fun and stuff. For starters, it's not my kind of thing. I don't see any entertainment value in it myself, but that's not to say it shouldn't happen. But like you say, just in the environment we're in, and I have a dislike for it. I don't like it. I don't think it's the right message to be sending about what we all do. I might sound like a bit of a stick in the mud. There's just something about it which I'm trying to find the right words, really. Turns me away from it, yeah.
Talking about patience and things like that about golf just a minute ago, and then we're talking about this kind of reactionary approach. Oh, I've lost $5, it's a disgrace, the referee, whatever. I'm like, come on. Like, you win and lose, and you just approach it without, with ambivalence, to be like, oh, well, that's just variance and just where it goes sometimes. And my edge will...
I tell you what it reminds me of. Those 2 girls during Euros, the OnlyFans girls who are all over Twitter running around offending foreign people and all that?
I have no idea, honestly.
People will know. I saw it and had to meet him. It wasn't real. It's just all fake. And I'm not saying that it's not his money. I'm not saying that they're not his bets. All I'm saying is I don't think he's having those bets unless he's filming himself and filming a reaction. The $5,000's irrelevant to me because he's going to get more than $5,000 back in the long term off all the publicity and stuff he'll get, the various work he'll get off the back of it. It just feels fake, and it's not to sound like too much of a like nanny state bore, but people will see that, especially young lads will see that and think, oh, that's what racing's about. That's what betting's about.
Yeah.
And like you say, it's not. And for every blogger, there'll be 20 lads who empty their pockets and absolutely do it in, trying to chase that kind of lifestyle. Like I say, I don't want to sound like too much of a nanny state bore, but I think that's why I feel a bit uncomfortable about it. I just don't think it's right. Probably in a minority here, I'll accept that. And I know a lot of people that we know or respect have a lot of time for him. Not saying anything against him personally. Yeah, not for me. And I don't think it's a good look for the industry at all.
Definitely. And you mentioned there Twitter. And I was going to talk about that because, gambling is, a lot of people in our world use Twitter to communicate. That's how you get to know people, like a lot of people from Smartbash or whoever it is, people you start betting with, people you work with, people you admire, people you respect, people you learn from, people you laugh at, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Twitter is where they meet. And the way Twitter is going at the moment. Now, I'm not here to go on a diatribe about if you're left or right wing or where we're politically leaning. Obviously, we all think right wing nut jobs and people doing rioting are just despicable people and is completely out of order. What's been taking place and the misinformation that's going through at the moment on Twitter. But from the perspective of trying to use Twitter for the content that we want it for betting, it's become harder and harder. We actually compared notes on this before because I have on my phone, I have Twitter, it says I've got a For You tab, which is meant to be a mix of the people I follow and curated other things that Twitter's algorithm throws at me. And then I have a Following tab, which is the people I follow. Now, if I go to Following tab, I don't get the posts that are of most note, which are getting the most engagement from the people I follow, that were, people that have put up interesting topics or there's some links or pictures, whatever it might be, or debate. I don't see that. I have to go to the For You tab where I find that, and it's all mixed in with a load of BS that I don't wish to see. Now, recently it was like when Trump got shot, it was a load of stuff about that, right-wing stuff, and then with the UK riots ongoing and whatever else, US politics, Israel, Palestine, whatever. I'm not on Twitter for that. I want to read about betting. And at the moment, it just feels the way that platform is going, I can see people wishing to leave it. And I wouldn't use it if I didn't need to for work. I feel like it's just poisonous. So you found the same, haven't you, Josh? You both comparing notes before. We noticed the same.
Yeah, I very much try to limit it to stuff about betting. I actually speak to people every day about certain Twitter personalities and some of the things they say, because they say some hilarious stuff, just like comical. I don't really want to be going on there to see what some middle-aged tipster thinks about Israel-Palestine or whether we should have nuclear weapons or whether the NHS is underfunded, because I wouldn't go to Twitter to get that information. And like you say, it's becoming increasingly difficult to filter out all the drivel from what you want to use it for. I didn't notice it when Elon Musk took over. I know everyone was moaning about him saying X, Y, and Z, but it's only been the last 2 or 3 weeks I've really noticed it. So yeah, I'm going to take it off my phone, I think, and just use it for SBC and just have a look at things there.
Yeah. I wonder if there's a platform I know people have been talking about the demise of Twitter for the best part of 18 months now, or however long, Musk, when he took over and fired a bunch of people. But I think that was more about the stability of the platform, etc. But like these days, it just seems to be like you just can't use it without getting bombarded with stuff that you don't wish to see. I see stuff from people like Andrew Tate. God, what an odious man he is. I had no idea, no interest in this guy. And it comes up on my algorithm or whatever, my feed. And I just want to read about what Josh has had, what the bloggers had for breakfast. No, I don't, but you know what I mean? I'm not interested in any of that. And it just feels at the moment you can't use the app without going for that crap. So just wanted to talk about that.
Is it meant to be curated to what you Google and stuff? Because I keep on getting stuff for like therapy and penis enlargement. So I presumed it was based on what I've searched for, but I'm not sure.
So many places I could go right now, Josh. I'm going to leave that one right now. Let's segue on nicely to talk about, Josh, let's segue nicely to talk about some of the services we're working with, because, there's always like people asking us about services you can follow, which you don't need to rely on soft bookmakers. And we've done some stuff, we've done a lot on what we call the 5 stages of betting, where you go from like stage 1, betting on, the easiest stuff available, soft bookmakers, all the way through to stage 5, where you're betting with exchanges and sharp firms and brokers and in-person betting. So there's all that. But for those people in between or interested in that, there are some really good services out there, aren't there, Josh, that are doing well across different sports and different markets. We'll talk about a few of them now. I want to kick off with one called Monetus, which is a live football betting service that, as we're approaching the start of the traditional European season starting, like Premier League season starts in about 10 days' time. And the reason I like this service is, first of all, it's live betting and it's profitable. So the fact it's profitable is the first key point. I think it's 6% ROI to benchmarked, easily available prices, and then about double that to exchanges. And second of all, even if you take these bets with soft firms, you're not going to stand out as being a sharp bet at taking live football bets versus taking a each way bet on horse racing the night before, where you might stand out. Yeah, I'm a big fan. And I think we're going to try and give this one a lot more exposure, because if you haven't checked it out, there's a lot to see there. And I think it's one to consider adding into your portfolio, because I think about half of the bets put up you can easily get on the exchanges, can't you?
Was the analysis, yeah. So bets work out, there's normally about 10 bets a week on average. Obviously, it fluctuates depending on what football's going on. So it's been very quiet recently as we're in friendly season. Yeah, I've actually recorded a video, which I'm sure we can link up under this, can't we?
Yeah.
It just shows the key stuff. There's plenty of stuff on the sales page as well. The key takeaway for me was, the difference between bookmaker prices was quite small. The ability to get on with different bookmakers and definitely having the exchange as an option will definitely increase your ROI. But the second one, this is probably the most important, because people need to start thinking about this. I know tipsters don't. It's what impact it'll have on your maker accounts. Spoken to a few of our members who use it. One of them is European, but based in Africa at the moment. Spoke to them at length about it and said that the bets just don't cause an issue. You never get a time delay. This is quite a heavy stake in punter as well. Can get as much money down as they want. And because of the nature of the bet, it's in play. There's no closing line. It's normally seen as quite muggy, in inverted commas. It doesn't set too many alarm bells off. And a nice steady ROI of 5-6% there is exactly what it's there for. You don't want to be hitting 20% because then you'll get noticed. Steady 5-6%, turning over your cash. Perfect. I really like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's really good. And then we've also got another horse racing one that's doing well. So that's football. We've got horse racing one, ICC. It's got a really good record of Betfair SP, hasn't it? I think we're approaching 2,000 bets and 13.5% Betfair SP ROI after 2% commission. And there also is an edge advised prices, where it's at 17.18%, if I've got it correct here. So yeah, just there's a few options out there for those of you. You know, Betfair SP isn't always the optimal way to play. Like, we would advise you play in the 5 to 10 minutes prior to the race. And I know in each review we do that analysis where we compare the best time to take a bet. And invariably for those at a bigger price, like 5 to 1 and above, like this service, it's always better, almost always better to take it in the lead up to race. But if you wanted to take BSP, I understand why, because, you know, it's a set and forget. You can just let it go. It's still got a really good record, hasn't it? So there's just options out there, aren't there, for people that you're worried about their accounts, or maybe they don't have them. There's an option there at Betfair SP for ICC. Is there anything I've missed off on that one?
No, not really. The BSP is the thing that really attracted it to me most. So we're not talking about a small sample here. We're talking about over 1,800 bets. So the fact that it's making a very good profit from advised, but then still making a very good profit from BSP, albeit smaller, that's a really good sign to me. I'd actually be worried here if the BSP returns was a lot higher, because it showed that there's no closing line value. But there is closing line value. It's just not as big as you may well expect. So there's definitely some juice left in those prices when you get to the end. Yeah, really like that service. And it's something a bit different. Irish racing.
Yeah.
I think you had Andy Holden on earlier on in the year, and he talked about how difficult it is to beat. So the fact that this service is doing that, quite consistent as well. Double-digit ROIs from advised prices every year of operation so far, if you include 2024 as well. So that makes it 4 years. Yeah, stands out. The one other we've got noted down to talk about, Pete, this one's a bit of a funny one because it's another bias, I think. Probably not a bookmaker bias this time. And that's Footy Star. That's one of our free services. Do you want to introduce that one?
Well, yeah, because most people like to bet on goals. So most people are more likely to bet on, when it comes to football games, they expect goals. So they bet more on over 2.5 goals than they do bet on under 2.5 goals. And that's the known kind of thing about what punters do. You know, they're less likely to see a game as a 1-0, and they're more likely to see it as a 2-1 or a 3-2 or exciting. You know, they expect goals to happen. And that's the same for the both teams to score market. People always will prefer to bet on both teams to score yes. Now, this service takes the contrary view, where there's value in the both teams to score no market. And it's got really good opposing that kind of got the expectation of goals. And they've been doing really well. So say they've been with us 4 or 5 months now. And prior to that, they had a really good record on a site called Tipster with 2 R's. And they basically left that site because they didn't.
Say that again, Pete. That sounded amazing. What was it?
Tipster with 2 R's at the end.
We're down with the kids here, telling you.
It's my Texan troll. That's a niche joke. They've got that record there, and they left them because they didn't have enough bookmakers to benchmark their results from on their platform. So they come with us, and they're putting them forward. We're using a fair group of bookmakers to benchmark results from, or to quote odds from. And yeah, they've got a phenomenal record, 14.4% ROI. This year, they're just under 13%, and that's nearly 2,000 bets. The strike rate is good at like 45%. And the average price of selections is just above 7-4. So yeah, it's flying at the moment, and it's great to see just another option. And again, you can take these bets a variety of locations. They needn't all be with soft bookmakers. You can take them with brokers. You can take them with exchanges. Often you'll get the best odds on some of those markets where there's liquidity.
Yeah.
Now, not every market will have that liquidity necessarily, so you might have to spread it around. But again, it's not really a market that is renowned for people to take advantage of. It's not like betting extra places on golf or some of the things, or boosts on football, whatever it might be, which bookmakers know they're vulnerable to. I don't think they particularly aware, or I don't know of anybody else really doing this. Really good so far. And just, again, a third option for people looking for ways to get money down without needing specific soft bookmakers to do. And the last thing I would say as well, to wrap up our chat today, is Account Agent. If you haven't been using Account Agent, go check it out. It's a free SBC service, and it offers 2 types of bets: amateur bets, which are down 2% ROI from 355 bets so far. Now, these are designed to make a very small loss in exchange for posting big market, no EV or small negative EV bets that bookmakers like. So the idea is you blend those bets into your sharp action. Now, you're only making a very small loss on it, and it's probably worth that compared to the value of you keeping your betting account alive. And then secondly, it also advises hedge bets.
Yeah.
So they're designed to transfer profits from soft bookmakers to exchanges. So you take one side with the soft book, and then you take the other side with an exchange, or you can take it with a broker or Pinnacle. So for example, you might back Man City to win with the soft bookmaker, and then you take Tottenham double chance with the exchange or the broker, and then you make a small loss overall. I think over the course of 45 bets, they've lost 1.7 points overall. A tiny price to pay, I think, for the value in either losing betting favourites with a soft bookmaker or transferring the profits to brokers and exchange accounts if they actually win. So that would be a loss.
On that side of the bet, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, on the other side of the bet. So yeah, again, a couple of ideas just to keep your accounts going for longer. You're not going to keep them forever, but we'll keep them going for longer than otherwise, I believe. Worth checking out if yet to do so. That's another free SBC service.
3 altogether, isn't there, Pete? There's Footy Star, Account Agent, and then the very well-performing The Daily Sheet, which I think we've spoken about before on the pod. Quite remarkable profits from that as well.
Yeah, that's going really well. That's horse racing, and it's got a great record. We've been doing that since earlier in the year. Like, they just come off July where they made 25% ROI, and they've got a really good long-term record. Really like this one.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, it doesn't work at Bet1st because the bets come through the morning, but obviously they get bet into an efficient price, and the edge is gone at Bet1st. We'll do a full analysis on the service coming soon anyway, because it's due. But yeah, there's a few options out there for people looking for non-traditional services. We've talked about golf betting today and how you can follow that. And again, you can follow all of those: PJ Profit, Weekly Golf Value, and Golf Betting Club, and any of those other ones, and on the exchanges or with sharp bookmakers where they have markets available. So there are always options, right? There are always options. If you're limited with Bet365, Denise has limited you, or Flutter have limited you, join the club, and that isn't the end of the game. If you are looking for encouragement, it's all there to go and keep your betting going, even if you get that your account email from Denise, the dreaded your account message.
The worst time of life that was.
Yeah,
got betrayed.
It's like a Medal of Honor. I've got a mate actually who's got an email from a casino saying he's banned from using the casino, online casino. So that was a good one.
How?
Yeah, we won a bunch of cash on it. So they had different offers available. So I was like, that's something to put on your wall. That's definitely something to frame. So yeah. And normally you get banned from in-person casinos, like card counting and what have you. But yeah, I think I was like, that's impressive, Josh, I think any other business, mate? Or are we done?
I've rambled on for way too long. Cheers, Pete.
Yeah, cheers. So anyone interested in all these bits where the videos or the links, we will slide them into the show notes. And yeah, all that remains is to say thank you for listening, and we'll speak to you again soon.